Hello everyone, and welcome to our review of the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. Also, Con and I would like to send out a thank you to everyone. We just hit 1,000 subscribers before this video, so thank you to everyone who clicked that subscribe button and helped us get to this point. And we hope to keep on bringing you more content, more shoe reviews, more race recaps, more running content. So thank you very much, and we will see you on the road. Okay, Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 specs and features. Here it is. Now I will say, especially with it right up against the camera here, it does look a lot bigger in the pictures than it is in real life. I mean, it's got a thick midsole like super shoes would, but if I hold it in my hand like this, or certainly when I see it on foot, it doesn't look quite as thick as the pictures would have you believe. Anyway, let's start at the upper. It's a very thin upper that is pretty much transparent. You can see my fingers through it. Very porous, almost as porous as the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4 PB. The laces are not really stretchy. They're not serrated, but they're not cheap laces. They're good quality laces. It's got an elastic one-piece booty-style upper, so there is no tongue to it. The lacing system in the tongue is all integrated into the one-piece upper. There's some stitching here, but it's a very fine stitching, and it looks pretty durable as far as stitching goes on a lacing system. There's a little flap here to keep the laces closed down. It is a little bit more rigid of a textile on top of where the tongue is. I'm guessing that's to offer a little bit of protection on the top of the foot. The heel counter, there is no heel counter to it, but there is a shape to the heel, unlike the almost decoupled heel unit on the first version. And there's a little bit of padding in the heel cup right there. You do get a little bit of an elf flare to try and keep that off of the Achilles. The foot shape is generally the same foot shape as the first version. I did try it on in the store a little bit, and it does feel a tad bit shorter than the first version. I almost wondered if I should go up half a size. I didn't go up half a size. I think for a racing shoe, it's still going to be true to size for me. But if you're between two sizes and sometimes have to go up half a size, I recommend trying it on first. And I tried it on in store. The sock liner is glued in. It does not feel like I could rip it out. I might, but I might do damage to the shoe if I did that. The midsole, this is the Incredi-Run midsole, which is a TPEE midsole, and I have only really seen how it feels while running back and forth inside the store, so I don't really know about the performance of the midsole, but it is really soft and really bouncy, at least while running on a slate floor inside of a running store. I'm eager to see how the performance properties change once I get some miles on it and pick it up and run it through the race paces. The recess in the midsole is on the lateral side, not the medial side. So those who were worried about the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0, where they put the recess on the medial side, you need not worry about that in the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. They still have the continuous midsole on the medial side. So if overpronation is a factor, is a problem, then you have a continuous midsole on that medial side. So yeah, I can just squeeze this with my hands. It's very, very palpable. You can see the plate here. I'll tap the plate. And that is the forked plate that has those slices under the metatarsal heads like in the first one. At least that's what I have read. I can't tell from the midsole. Outsole, you've got a good amount of rubber, both sides of the heel, and it looks like the lateral side, I don't know if it's just a different color or if it's a different rubber. It kind of has the same texture to it, but there's From what I've heard, this is gonna have better grip than the rubber on the first version, which was not all that grippy. It's one of those things that you just kind of had to sacrifice in order to have a fast shoe. But the rubber is also very flexible. I know that some rubbers kind of nerf the shock absorption if the rubber is too hard, but it feels like this is a very flexible rubber. It moves right along with how I can squeeze the midsole of the shoe. It is a, well, one shoe was a 7.3 ounce and one shoe was 7.5 ounces in my men's 9.5. It was 209 grams and 215 grams, which is not the best as far as quality control. A lot of my shoes might be 2 grams different. Of course, my Adidas Adizero Evo SL, those were 18 grams different, so I guess 5 or 6 grams difference. Shouldn't be anything I should complain too much about. I definitely have racing shoes that have more of a difference in right to left foot than these do. Those are the specs and features. Yeah, I can't wait to get these out on the road. As you can tell, they are pristine because I have not run in them yet, except for going back and forth in the store. I might take them out on a workout, on a speed workout tomorrow. Yeah. If you watched last week's video, you will know I did a 12 by 400 workout in the Endorphin Elite 2. And while it was a good workout, with most of those reps being in the 81 to 77 second range, which is about 520 per mile pace and faster, I do think that the Endorphin Elite 2 is better for more steady tempo to marathon effort paces and might just be a little bit too bouncy for those VO2 max paces. Good morning, it's Sunday morning. It's long run day. It's not going to be totally LSD because I'm wearing a Saucony Endorphin Elite 2, which is not really an LSD shoe, but I do want to wear it today for the time on foot test because I'll have about 17 to 18 miles. But in a little while, once I get a little more light in the sky, I'm going to test it at some marathon effort. See how it does at that pace. All right, I'm about 2 kilometers in to what will probably be 20 minutes at kind of a marathon to marathon plus effort. And these shoes are responding really well. You still get the bounce, but there's a little bit more control in them when I'm putting some pace effort into it. And that 2K so far has had some marathon pace, some slower than marathon pace, down to solid state pace, even tempo pace, and they're really fun to run fast in. About 10 more seconds. These things are fun for sure. Come on. Time. All right. So that was 20 minutes at a little faster than marathon pace on average. More of a SSP, a solid state pace, which is about 6:20 right now. I can't do a marathon at that pace of my current fitness. But I could do something between a 30K and a half marathon at that fitness, maybe. I'm also kind of feeling that park run yesterday. Anyway, I think I saw Mitch back there coming from his house, so I'm gonna run back and meet him before meeting the rest of the group in a little while. Just finished 18 miles in the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2, and it's pretty cold outside. It's freezing temperatures. You can tell because I'm wearing tights and I don't like to. Yeah, in the cold temperatures, the foam holds up well, for sure. It stayed bouncy throughout the whole time. And even though I only did about 20 minutes of this run at an up-tempo pace, I did want to see how it felt after more than 2 hours on foot, and it still felt pretty good. And I did feel like even at an easy pace, it still bounced along and felt comfortable. Didn't really feel the harshness of any carbon plates or anything. And that would have been a departure from the first version actually. So it strikes me as the kind of shoe that even if you're not having your A game best day in a marathon, you would still have something that would keep giving back to you. More after the shoe off and shoe talk. All right, it's time to do a little shoe off. We've got the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 right here, and I'm going to be comparing it with the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4 PB, the Adidas Adazero Adios Pro 4, the Hoka Cielo X 2.0, the On CloudBoom Strike, the Nike AlphaFly 3, and its direct predecessor, the Saucony Endorphin Elite, the original version. Let's get these guys on the road. Okay, so I have the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4 PB, and I have the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. And so when I first stepped into them, the big difference was in the fit. Both of these have very good uppers, very porous, open uppers. I think the Brooks is a little bit more accommodating in the forefoot. The Endorphin Elite 2 is a little bit more snug, especially on the pinky toe. It doesn't bother me, but I notice it. At easy or steady easy paces, the Endorphin Elite is a lot bouncier, and the Brooks is a pretty bouncy shoe. As I pick up the pace, the Brooks feels a little stiffer because I'm mainly on the forefoot, which is not as cushioned, and the Saucony, the Endorphin Elite 2, remains bouncy throughout the whole midsole. It did feel a little bit more stable earlier last week when I was doing some 400s in it, but it feels like it's going to stay bouncy through a lot of paces. I think the Endorphin Elite 2 definitely is going to favor longer distances than the Hyperion Elite 4 PB. All right, now we've got the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 and the Adidas Adios Pro 4. And I did not expect these shoes to feel all that similar, but they both have a pretty soft and bouncy TPEE based midsole. The Incredible Run in the Saucony, and the Light Strike Pro and the Adidas. So the flavor of the bounce is similar. The Saucony just has more bounce, and the Adidas has that more aggressive roll forward. Also, they both fit similarly snug, although the non-removable sock liners feel different side by side. In the Adidas, it's a little bit more slick of a non-removable sock liner, so my foot can slide a little bit. I only notice it when I'm running next to the Saucony, where the non-removable sock liner, I guess, just helps keep my foot in place, or the general fit of the shoe. The Adidas gets its smoothness from that aggressive early roller rocker. The Saucony is really just relying on that super bounce that you get. So not all that dissimilar, but I feel like you're going to be counting on different things to help drive you forward late in a race. Now I have the Hoka Cielo X 2.0 versus the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. And yeah, these are the two that I think are kind of going head to head as far as spring super shoe releases. So the Endorphin Elite 2 has a softer, bouncier midsole overall, whereas the Cielo X 2.0 is softer through the midfoot specifically. So if you remember my review from a couple weeks ago in the Hoka, that aggressive rocker allows it to get a whole bunch of swelled up foam in that midfoot. So if you rely on that midfoot rocker, then the Hoka will really suit your needs. If you want a similar level of bounce, but just throughout the whole uniform midsole, the Endorphin Elite feels a whole lot more uniform, but both are bouncy AF. So It's going to come down to a fit or which of those features you'd rather have when you're tired late in a race. I'm tired right now. I did a park run with a warm-up and cool down this morning, and it's getting hot outside. Right now, I think it's easier to run in the Endorphin Elite 2, but I don't know. All right, here I have the CloudBoom Strike and the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. And I've talked about in other shoe-offs how soft the CloudBoom Strike is. The Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 is softer, or if not softer, then certainly bouncier. You get more of a rebound from the Incrediron midsole than you do from the midsole in the CloudBoom Strike. The CloudBoom Strike has more under the forefoot. It has almost 36 millimeters of cushion under the forefoot, and you do feel that. That also makes you feel the difference in the drop. You can feel the sharper angle of the Saucony, the 8 millimeter drop versus the 4 millimeter drop in the On. The On is more stable, and after 3 hours, if stability is the thing that you crave, the On might suit your needs. But if you need that bouncy, reboundy energy, it's kind of hard not to think of something as fun as the Endorphin Elite 2. All right, I have the Nike AlphaFly 3 on my right foot and the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 on the left. Both of these shoes have very similar uppers in that they're a very open knit, one-piece upper. These kids are loud, but they're having fun. I think the lockdown might be a tad bit better on the AlphaFly 3, but they both have good lockdown. The AlphaFly 3 is more stable, but it's also a little bit more clunky. Rolling through that wide midfoot, I feel a lot more softness and a lot more of an organic bounce on the forefoot of the Saucony. And I think that's because with the Nike, you've got that stiff fly plate, and then that's coupled with those air pods under the forefoot, which are not flexible. Good energy return, yes, but it's whether you want pop or bounce. Mechanical, organic. All right, here it is. Endorphin Elite 1 versus Endorphin Elite 2. And these are very different shoes. The Endorphin Elite 1 might be most unlike the Endorphin Elite 2 out of all the shoes I've tried. They have a similar geometry and they have the same brand, but the midsole experience is so different. The Endorphin Elite 1 I found was very smooth, and that was the defining characteristic. I never really found it bouncy. The Endorphin Elite 2 is very bouncy. Is it smooth? Sure, but what you feel is the bounce. Also, the uppers. I'm liking the Endorphin Elite 2 for its upper, but I like the upper on the Endorphin Elite 1 better. Even though it looks kind of funky, I slipped my foot into it, and it was like, hello, old friend. And then it disappeared on the foot as I started running. Definitely the second version, will be more forgiving when you're tired and still want some bounce. But the Endorphin Elite 1 will disappear on your foot a lot more. And I think I'll be talking about these two compared to each other in the shoe talk a lot. Okay, shoe talk time. Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. And I think the main topic of this shoe off is, should you upgrade? Should you get the Endorphin Elite 2, or should you pick up a pair of the Endorphin Elite 1 on sale right now? I think in the United States, some online retailers, I've seen this for $219, which is like a $55 savings. So they are different shoes. Other than some similarities in the profile of the shape of the midsole, these could be different lines of shoe. They have about the same shape of last. However, I find that I have a little bit more room in the forefoot in the Endorphin Elite 1. It's not that the Endorphin Elite 2 is too small, I just feel the snugness against my pinky toe there. When I'm running, that tends to go away, but it's in my mind when I'm walking around. Speaking of walking around, this is not really a walking around shoe. It is unstable, it's wobbly, it's kind of fun. You're smiling as you're walking around, but you're also thinking, can I run in this thing? And yes, you can run in this thing. So, big differences between these two. If I go to the Endorphin Elite 1, what I really loved about the Endorphin Elite 1 is what I loved about the original Vaporfly. The Vaporfly 4% and the Vaporfly Next Percent version 1 is it is a go fast shoe that could do everything from the 5K to the marathon, maybe even the 1 mile. What was different about this shoe is once I got slower than marathon pace, it really did not do as much for me. So this shoe was a wonder for me as long as I was running marathon pace or faster. And I had quite a few races and workouts in this shoe at that pace, and all of them were good. I am kind of wearing out this shoe, and there's not a lot of mileage on it. There's almost as much mileage on this shoe now as there is on this shoe. But even just holding them in hand, this foam, Power Run HG, is a lot firmer, a lot less compliant than this Incrediron. This Incrediron is a totally different compound. It is a TPEE foam, and if you thought that the TPEE in the Adios Pro 4 has taken a change for the bouncy and soft, then this is even more so. This midsole is a lot more reminiscent of the Adios Pro 4, but it just feels bouncier. Now, these two shoes are very different. Whereas I could do a fast 5K in this shoe, I might be able to do a fast 5K in the Endorphin Elite 2, but it would feel bouncy the whole time. And if there were any hard turns in that 5K, forget about it. This thing does not take turns well, whereas the Endorphin Elite 1 does. No, I think this shoe is a lot more similar to this shoe, the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0. These are the bouncy boys. The bounce is a little bit different if you remember from the shoe off. This whole midsole is a really squishy compound that just gets a little bit firmer as you pick up the pace. I think the wheelhouse for this shoe is about marathon pace to maybe 10K pace, but probably closer to like a tempo 15K pace. But it could also handle a little bit slower than marathon pace and be fine, and still be soft and not harsh if you're running slower than marathon pace. This shoe, I think, has a similar wheelhouse, although I think it might feel good at a little bit faster paces. I might consider racing a 10K in this shoe, even though it's a little bit heavier than this one. Not by much, because this is the light version. But the midfoot of this one is softer and bouncier than the midfoot of the Endorphin Elite 2. However, the rest of the midsole in general is not quite as soft. But the Endorphin Elite 2 is the only shoe that is softer than the Hoka Cielo X 2.0. Am I going to race in this shoe? Am I glad that I bought it? Well, yeah, I am glad I bought it, and I don't consider it an upgrade. I consider it a different shoe, almost for a different use case scenario. I am probably going to wear this shoe or this shoe in Boston for the marathon. Boston is not going to be a PR attempt for me. The marathon won't be. I will have run it 2 days after a PR attempt at the Boston 5K. And am I going to run fast? Well, I'm going to try to run fast, but I don't know that it's going to be a sub 249 PR attempt. If I ran sub 3, I think that would be a good day, because I'm going to be out there enjoying Boston. And I think this is a good shoe with that, especially since Boston has like 2 turns. So yeah, I'm going to get some more miles in this shoe. I'm going to enjoy running in it, but if I want to do a flat, fast marathon and aim for a PR, I'm probably going to go back to the first version. So maybe think about getting the first version on sale if you really, really loved it and are worried that this is something completely different. Thank you for watching my shoe talk. Thanks again for helping me get to 1,000 subscribers, and I hope to be back with some more content real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, share the video, leave a comment below, and I will see you guys on the next run.